Hi, I'm Roy Capp. I'm an instructor here at Delphi, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your kiln for doing a pot melt. Well, I'm going to show you how to assemble a pot melt inside your kiln. We're going to do it here on the table, though. It's just easier to see, I think, than doing it in a kiln, but imagine that this table is the inside of your kiln. First thing you want to do is we're going to put down something so the glass doesn't stick to the shelf. Now, when we're doing a pot melt, we're going to get up to about 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. And glass, the hotter it gets, the stickier it gets, and it'll really want to stick to the shelf. What we often use here at Delphi is some fiber paper. This particular fiber paper is an 1/8 inch fiber paper, and the reason for the thickness is really because of the high heat that we're dealing with. The next thing we're going to do here for the setup is we want to use some kiln post. Now, what the kiln post is going to do is this is going to elevate the pot off the bottom or the shelf in your kiln. The height of this depends on a couple of things. One is how much room you have in your kiln. I mean, if you had a taller kiln, we could these are 2-inch kiln shelves. This is a 4-inch kiln shelf. And again, just depending on how much depth you have in your kiln will just kind of determine where you can put your pot. So the first thing then, we want to put the paper down onto the shelf. So again, so the glass doesn't stick to it. You just want a piece that's going to be a little bit bigger than what you're dealing with. So that the glass doesn't spread out and get all over the place. And then we're going to put the kiln post on top of the paper. Next comes this holder. This will hold the pot. So what we're going to then put on top of the kiln post is this holder for the pot. The pots come, with a variety of different holes in them, and what the different holes do is just create a different pattern. I've got some examples here on the table that I'll show you in a minute. This is an example of one that was done with a single hole pot, right? The glass comes in one spot, and then you can see how it kind of spreads out as it goes. So then we're going to put the pot on there. What's really nice about these pots is that they're reusable. These are made from ceramics, so they're a lot more durable than what like a flower pot's going to be for you. You could use a flower pot, but I can tell you from personal experience, you don't always know what you're going to get with a flower pot. Sometimes they'll crack because of the heat on you, and then your glass is all over the place, not contained like it should be. You should be able to reuse them several times. I've used this one probably 4 or 5 times. One of the slight disadvantages to reusing a pot is that you can see it's already kind of pre-colored. So as long as you're making pot melts that have similar colors to them, then you're fine. Often what I'll do is, if I want to do something that was blue, I just start adding some blue to this. So I'll get a pot melt that's got a little bit of the green in it, a little bit of this kind of butterscotch color, and eventually that'll be gone and I'll only have blue. So I've got my pot here, it's on the stand, it's ready to go. You'll notice that all of them have a hole in them, right? I mean, the glass has got to fall through the hole when it gets molten. So I always cover that hole up first with a piece of clear glass. Put that over the hole, because when you're putting in your little pieces of glass, you don't want them falling through the hole before they melt, right? So that just kind of blocks all that going. Obviously, you need to use, again, a fusible glass. We would suggest a 96 or a 90 COE glass. I often cut the glass into thin strips. Usually, I mean, this is a great way of using up scrap or small pieces of glass that you have that you're not sure what to do with. Really trying to control the color and make sure they don't get too muddy is you don't want to add too many colors. Personally, don't like usually using more than 3 colors. I think once you get beyond that, it's really hard to kind of keep them out from themselves, and the glass tends to get a little bit muddy. Another thing you want to do when you're doing this is you need to add clear glass to this, and it is probably 50% on clear glass. And then after I did it, I really wish I had put more in, and so that it would show up a little bit more. Now, this particular pot melt, this is actually the top of the pot melt. So this is how it was sitting on the shelf after the glass drips through, and you can see how it created this sort of little mark here. The other thing you might wonder then is, where's the little bump that's on here? Almost all of them, unless you have a great firing schedule, creates this little sort of we call them a pigtail, as they kind of swirl around and get on there. But usually you're going to take your pot melt and use it in something else. What I did on this particular one then was I just put it back in the kiln, heated it up, and took it to a full fuse temperature. And you can see that little pigtail just melts right back in, and it's pretty much a non-issue. You can see on this one I've used a little bit of cellophane tape to kind of hold the pieces together. What the cellophane is going to burn out in the kiln, it's not going to hurt anything, is it helps you kind of control where the colors are going. We often are trying to kind of control where the colors go. You can see this is a great example of something getting a little too muddy. And what happened here was I was trying to get too creative, and I said, oh, I'm going to throw in a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the orange in with the white to just kind of, so the colors would kind of all go together, and you can see how it really turned into more of this muddy kind of brown mess. One thing you want to be a little careful of, is I actually haven't done a very good job here, is to see how the glass sticks above the pot. Especially what you have to be concerned about is when you're closing the lid to your kiln, you don't want the lid where the heating elements are at touching this. So the glass really should be as tall as the pot or below the pot. A question we get asked a lot of times is, how much glass do you need to put in the pot? And I can tell you that this particular piece here is about a 6.5-inch circle, and I put in 2 pounds of glass. One of the keys to reusing these pots is to try to get out as much of the glass from inside the pot as you can, and that is totally has to do with the firing schedule. When I'm firing these, again, we're going to take these up to about 1600 degrees. You don't want to go too fast because you can actually thermal shock the pot a little bit. So, 400 or 500 degrees an hour is plenty of time. I take them up to 1600 degrees. You want the glass to be fairly fluid so it'll come out. You can see how we've left all the little tails on these as they kind of drip out. And you can see that, again, that there's a little bit of glass left in there, but there's not a lot of glass. Now, if you leave too much glass in the pots, what happens is as they cool, because of the difference in expansion and contraction between the glass and the ceramic form, is the bottoms will crack and break and fall off. So you want to try to melt out as much of the glass as you can out of the pot, and the key to that is just holding it. When you're up at 1600 degrees, you want to hold it for about an hour to get the glass to come out. That's what this one was. I held this for an hour, and you can see there's hardly any left. One of the advantages to working on fiber paper is that these come off fairly clean off the fiber paper, and all you usually have to do is just kind of scrub them, in the sink to get the little loose fibers off, and then they're good to go. You can, again, flip them this way and refire them. You can cut them up and incorporate little pieces into another project. There's really a lot of fun things you can do with using these pot melts, and again, it's a great way, I think, of getting rid of any scraps of glass or small pieces that you're not sure what to do with. And if you have any further questions about using the pot melts, you can certainly give us a call here at Delphi or check us out on the web.